Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, fellow shedheads around the world. Welcome to Captain of My Shed. I'm Captain Mikey, and this episode is the second in my table saw cabinet build series. We're taking it from where we left off last time, all the way through to the completed unit that you see behind you. We've managed to integrate dust extraction, including over blade dust extraction from the table saw. We've got a fully functioning router table with dust extraction as well. Lots of extra storage and some fun techniques and methods in there as well. If you just want to see the finished product, then by all means skip to the end of the video. I won't take it personally, but if you do like build videos, then this might be one for you. Keep watching and also consider liking and subscribing. Be a massive help to my small but perfectly formed channel, and I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, for now, I hope you enjoy the video. I'll see you at the end. Okay, so in the first episode, I took this crown guard off the riving knife and I modified the riving knife then so that I could make grooving cuts without having to remove the riving knife. Now I'm taking this and seeing if I can modify it to use it with my design. I do want overhead dust collection from the table saw, and I'm modifying the existing crown guard here to provide me with that. It'll be a little bit safer for me to use the saw with this in place, and also the aim is to catch any of the dust that's coming off the top of the cut. To help achieve that, I've widened the mouth of the crown guard that you just saw me doing that there, and now I'm applying some contact adhesive. I'm going to stick on some draft exclusion strip, the brush type strip that you might put at the bottom of a door to exclude draft. That's going to go on on the inside of the crown guard mouth here. I'm going to surround the whole mouth with it, and I like this idea because I can get the crown guard really low to the piece of work without risking it getting hit by pieces flying off or the blade striking it. If anything's going to get hit, it'll be that brush. Much more forgiving and much safer if I am lowering it right down on top of the blade. Then I'm just gluing the two halves together to make it a nice strong unit. It doesn't need to come apart anymore, and I'll add a little bit of that brush strip to the front edge too, using this little piece of wood that I've finangled, and that's this component complete. Right, this next bit is going to be a bit experimental because I'm working with scraps wherever I can. I'm trying to get through my scrap wood pile. I've got this bit of, it's only 9mm Baltic birch, and you can just kind of see I've drawn a bit of a shape on here. And what I'm trying to build, or what I'm trying to construct, is an arm that will come across the top of the router table and the table saw when I want overhead dust extraction, which will hold this in place and allow it to be moved up and down somehow. I've got a kind of idea in my head, and I think it'll work. So yeah, let's keep going. So yeah, a lot of this part of the project is going to be done by eye, just eyeballing things, seeing if they fit, seeing if they work. I'm just coming up with a system to attach this kind of over table arm that I'm making. And I'm basically taking this piece of plywood, cutting some slots in it, and you'll see how these work in a second. The idea is that I can take it on and off, or put it on and off fairly quickly and easily without too much hassle. And I'll be able to hang it up on the wall somewhere out of the way when I'm not using it. So I'm just adding a couple of threaded inserts here to help me achieve this. They're about the strongest way I could come up with. I want this to fix nice and firm to the workbench. Let's see. And I found these eyelets that I had spare, and they're going to work nicely, and you can see here how this is going to fit into place. So I want this to look nice as well, so I'm drilling some holes in it because that apparently makes things look nice. The pillar drill didn't enjoy this, but we got there in the end. This component that I'm putting together here is going to eventually hold the crown guard that I was making at the beginning of the video. Just gluing it up because I wanted a piece of material that was a bit thicker, and I thought aesthetically it looked quite nice, getting a bit of black involved. I've got a little bit of that black MDF involved throughout the workshop, so again, style points really. And still, this is just being planned out in my head as I go. I'm just taking rough measurements along the way and putting things together and hoping that they work. And actually, for this project, it did seem to work out fairly well. I didn't make any big blunders. Using a round over bit in the router table just to put a nice soft edge on this, if I can help it, and for the sake of a couple of minutes, making something look just a little bit nicer, a little bit more neat and tidy, it's worth doing, taking the time. I'm adding some 9mm grooves, sort of rebates I suppose, slots in these strips. They're going to add some rigidity to the arm that reaches across the router table and table saw to hold that crown guard, and you'll see that in a minute coming together. Fast becoming one of my favourite techniques. A little bit of super glue for the clamping force, and wood glue for the eventual strength once it dries. I know this isn't a very strong join that I've put here. I just wanted to hold them together briefly while I add the strips that I was just cutting those grooves in. You can see now this is going to add a bit of lateral stability to this long, thin arm. There you go. Stability completed it, mate. Not really. So I'm obviously not happy with that. So I'm gluing in a couple of pieces of oak either side of the arm here just to add a bit of rigidity. These are a couple of offcuts that I had. They were that shape already. I just needed to make them fit the slots, etc. And now we'll finish up adding those strips for rigidity as well. And hopefully that will solve the problem. So it's not rock solid, but that is significantly better than it was, and it will work well enough to hold that crown guard. There's not a lot of force going through it. Now we're looking at the dust extraction. These holes I pre-cut into the workbench, into the cabinet, ready for exactly this process. I had a rough plan back then, and I'm just kind of trying to execute that. Hello, Captain. Using a couple of 100mm fittings as well, I can get things attached pretty snug. And again, just offering things up, cutting them to length, making sure they fit, putting them back in place. I did a whole video on this circle cutting jig, so by all means check out the channel for that. But it's a decent little thing, and it allows me to cut these nice accurate circles in this black MDF. And once I've got that recess done, I cut all the way through from the other side, and that leaves a hole with a little bit of a lip for the 100mm pipe to rest against. You'll see that in a second. Now I had these pieces of solid birch from an IKEA unit a friend gave to me, and I took it apart to make various projects, and it has this rebate on it already, which is ideal for what I want. You'll see how that works in a second, but this is basically what I'm making here with the black MDF piece as well, is a kind of dual port system for dust extraction, so that I can change quickly between extraction from the router table and the table saw. And again, just taking that extra moment to put a little chamfer on a couple of the corners of this piece just to make it look purdy. And here I'm making the piece that's going to slide up and down in between those two ports that were made out of the black MDF you saw earlier. Same technique again with the circle cutting router. And then I'm going to epoxy the pipe into place, making sure it's sealed all round so there's no loss of suction on this part. And here we have an over-complicated drilling jig that I've marked up. The idea is that I want the piece you just saw me make, I want that to slide up and down in between the two ports and connect to magnets. And those magnets have to line up really nicely around each port and on the face of the part that's sliding up and down. This will make more sense later on. By marking this up, I'm using a drill there just to locate it on the bottom edge of the top hole. And once located, I can pre-drill and mark up basically where the holes are going to go. Same thing on the bottom, and same thing on the other piece that slides up and down. And hopefully now all the magnets that go into place will all be aligned once they're facing each other, and we'll have a nice strong connection. Holes all drilled nice and neat, and now it's time to put in the rare earth magnets. They're just 8mm magnets and 6 around each hole. Should make a strong enough connection. Captain Mikey's top tip then, if you want to look really classy when applying epoxy, make sure you extend that little pinky. Look at that, what a pro. Okay, so I do like to show when I cock up, and I have. At some point during the installation of the magnets, I flip them round the wrong way in between gluing these ones and the ones around that hole. And that means the ones around this top hole, they do a great job. But around the bottom hole, not so much, because the one face attracts and the other face repels, and if you flip them over the wrong way around, then the poles are going to repel, unfortunately, and that's what's happened. And I am not happy about it, because although I've managed to get the magnets out, it has left a bit of a mess around a couple of the holes. They're probably going to be a bit too deep now, so I'm going to see if I can salvage this and then re-epoxy, reapply, and carry on. Bugger. Right, we'll leave that alone, shall we, for a bit. So now I'm going to attach the crown guard. I've just come up with a way to make sure that it's fixed nice and firmly to that component. I'm pre-drilled and now using super glue to reinforce the inside of the holes so that I can tap them out with this tap. I think it's an M5 tap from memory that I used. Using the clamp there to stop the MDF from splitting, which worked a treat, and then just adding some grub screws. It's already got a really nice tight fit into the hole, the crown guard does, so just those 3 grub screws hold that really nice and firmly in place. And now I can move on to the mechanism that's going to lift and lower the crown guard, and it's this 4-point cantilever. I've seen other people do this, and I thought it looked like a good idea. Fairly simple to do. Again, I'm just building as I go. I'm not really measuring it out or anything. Just whatever looks like it might work, offering it up to the machine and then carrying on. Again, the pillar drill's struggling a little bit with those big Forstner bits, but we got there in the end. And once we've cut out the shape, always time to make it look a bit nicer. We'll get it over to the router table, round off the edges as well. And this component is nearly complete. And apparently you can't have too many roundovers. So whilst I still had the bit in the router table, I decided to bring the extension arm over and round over all the sharp edges on that as well. And it did actually make it look much smarter, so yay. I made this little component off camera. I'm gluing it in place, and it's going to be the guide, one of the guides for the vacuum hose. Now I'm cutting out a space for the switch that's mounted on the side of the router table. I wanted to have quick access to the on and off button without having to open the door. The Iwasaki file made short work of bringing the edges to my line. And I managed to get a nice snug fit around the switch box. And then the switch plate, because the fit was so nice and snug, the switch plate was all I needed to hold that panel in place. That worked out really nicely. Whilst the top was off, I took the opportunity to fix this strip of oak to the edge of the table saw in its existing 8mm threaded holes. And I can set the height of that. I just made the holes a little bit loose so I could set the height of it perfectly so that I could actually pin the edge of the Corian down to the oak strip and keep it really nice and flush to the stainless steel top, sorry, to the cast iron top rather, of the table saw. It worked a treat actually. And just a couple of screws in place and we are nice and secure. Ooh, lovely. No sooner had I got the router top fixed in place than I took it off again because I wanted to spray the edge. I thought it looked a little bit shabby the way I had it. And this makes it look a lot smarter. You'll see when I put it in place it was worth doing, taking the effort just to whip it off and spray a bit of black on there. There you go, much better. Now it's on to the construction of the door for the router table. I've got a piece of 5mm Perspex there that I bought in from Amazon, I think. And I'm just going to cut into this 9mm birch plywood. And there's a little bit of a safety tip here. Don't support your workpiece when you're using a plunge saw the way I'm about to. That's literally like saying, hey, blade, come get me. Eat my thumb. That's much more sensible. Make sure you support the piece on the opposite side so that if that blade does hop off the track, it's not going to bite into the wood, zip backwards and whip your thumb off. Especially if, like me, you're wearing a Ponzi thumb ring. putting a rebate onto the inside edge of that opening I've just cut, or as my friends across the pond would call it, a rabbit. Sounds kind of cute, doesn't it? There we go. That'll be all the way around the inside edge, ready to accept that piece of perspex that I unpacked earlier. With the perspex cut to size and ready to fit, I thought I'd put a coat of finish onto the frame, just because I don't really want to be putting finish on with perspex in place. I don't want to leave a nasty smear on the nice clear perspex. I'm roughing up the edge of the perspex here using the frame to hold it in place, and now I'm going to tape off where I don't want glue to be and put some contact adhesive all the way around the edge. Spread it nice and thin with a little bit of an offcut splinter. Same on the frame obviously, and then that will get fit into place. I'm just using a generic magnetic catch that I had left over from a different project to make sure the door closes nicely and stays closed, and it does, but I probably should have put a handle on before I tested it, saving me from having to pry it open. So now I'm just gluing a handle into place, and you're about to see me almost attach myself to this door. We're going to have a near miss. That was a bit close. Slightly longer than I anticipated. I forgot that I'd changed them out. Oops. Oops indeed, Mikey. You couldn't really see in the shot, but that brad nail was sticking out of the handle a good 7mm. That would have hurt some. Satisfying to pull that peeling off the perspex now. Or to peel that film off the perspex now even. And we can test the dust extraction. Does it work? Well, yeah, it really does actually. For a first attempt, I think I'm pretty happy with that. Now, this is the quickest way I know how to make drawers. Bit of wood glue, brad nails to hold it in place while the wood glue dries, and you can carry on working that way. Once the frames have all been nailed together, we can glue them to the bases with an even amount sticking out each side so that it will slide in the rails that are already cut. All told, including cutting, gluing and pinning all of these drawers, all three took about half an hour to make. Not bad going. I didn't film me gluing the front on the fronts of these drawers, but as you can see I did, and this is just a bit of that solid birch from the old IKEA unit that I've just dyed black for the handles. I will clean up the glue squeeze out, by the way. I'm just doing this so that I can see what they're looking like, and I think they look pretty tidy. This panel in the back is going to hide some of the ugly gubbins, mainly where the dust extraction is routed through at the back of those drawers, but I want it removable, so just 4 screws will hold that in place. And I thought this was a bit of an ugly looking edge, and I had some of this hardwood moulding, so just a quick bit of glue, stick that in place, and it looks really smart. And with that, it's time to assemble this thing, and I can't wait to see how all this hard work has come together. thank you very much if you've made it to the end of the video. As always, I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it's turned out really well. I'm going to really enjoy using this in the workshop. It's become a much more versatile tool. It's given me loads of extra storage, so I'll be able to tidy up the workshop even more. And for a homemade project, it's actually turned out really nice and accurate, straight level, all the things that you want out of a router table and a table saw. Still more improvements to make to the fence, for example. I've got a zero clearance slot to make, but those will be separate videos and we'll do that in the future. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, then make sure you're getting the reminders, and I'll see you on the channel in the future. But for now, take it easy. See you next time.